Nope. Yep, recording. Got it. Okay, so the numbers are 6,436 and 2,541. Now we are rounding to the nearest 10. So we go to our 10th spot. 10th spot. That's a 6, so I'm going to round up. 6,440. This one, my 10th spot is here. This is a 1, so I round down, or I just add that 0. 2,540. And now it said the word difference. So that means I'm not adding, I'm subtracting. So if I subtract, I get 0. 4 minus 4 is 0. All right, this time I cannot take 5 away from 4, so I have to borrow. That becomes a 5. And this one I add 10 to, like we did last time, 14. If I subtract them, 14 minus 5 is 9. And 5 minus 2 is 3. And my estimate is 3,900. And that's really all I had left to do. We did all the rounding before, but we just didn't talk about estimating. Estimating, you know, when you go to get service done, and you ask for an estimate, that's what they're doing. They're giving you an ideal, a ballpark by rounding their costs and what they think it's going to cost them to do your job. Doesn't mean it's an exact number, but they round it to find an estimate. All right, any questions? I got 4 people in chat, so I'm not really paying attention to chat that much. So if someone, okay, got it. All right, yeah, if you really have a question about the class, like ask away, push the space bar down and I'll hear you, you can ask a question. Okay, we're going right to 1.5. We're that close to finishing. Okay, 1.5. Now we did adding and subtracting. Now we're going to do multiplying and dividing. Today, this one is multiplying and the next section is dividing. Multiplying whole numbers. The one thing about multiplying is just repeated addition. It's just adding the same number a certain amount of times. So for instance, when you say 5 times 3, it's just 5 plus 5 plus 5, which is 15. But that's why we have our times tables, because you have 5 times 12, you want to add 5 12 times, you have to know your times table. So if I could say anything about multiplying, you've got to know your times tables. So if you don't, definitely brush up. There's lots of things online. There's like little games. You can play a kid game to do it. There's lots of fun ways to brush up on your multiplying facts, but make sure you know your multiplying facts. Okay. Just like adding, there is also the commutative property of multiplication. So commutative property of multiplication. And you probably use it if you multiply, you're probably going to use it more than you really think you do. But basically it says that changing the order of what you are multiplying, does not change the product. Product, when you multiply, it's called a product. The answer is called a product. So you can change the order. I can do 4 times 6 equals 24. But if I don't like that order, say I like the big number first, I can do 6 times 4 equals 24. And there might be cases when you're going to feel like you want to do that. Change the order. You can change the order any way you want. It's still the same answer. And I'm going to pause here for a second. So I see some people still writing. All right, so I have a question for you. Like my iPad is full. do you see space under what I'm writing? Can I write more? Do you see space on your end? No? Okay. That's what I thought. Okay, I got a couple people still writing. Okay, here we go, next page. There's also the other property we talked about with adding, which is the associative property. Of multiplication. When I probably from teaching math so long, but as soon as I write associative property, I think parentheses. It's about parentheses. It's always about parentheses. I associate here, and then I can associate here. Okay, this says that changing the order of grouping, sorry. Whoops, wrong one. Grouping of factors. Factors are the numbers you're multiplying. Does not change the product. So for example, and like I said, this is a parentheses one. If I give you 5 times 6 times 8, you might want to regroup it. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do that yet. Hold on. Maybe I should do times. We're eventually going to get rid of the X for times, but we're not there yet. Same thing as 5 times 6 times 8. They mean the same thing. I can change the order of the parentheses and I'll still get the same answer. Any questions? Nothing? Gloria, please check your chat. I just sent you a message. It's important. All right, here we go. Okay, so one more property. There's one more property in multiplying called distributive property. I'm only going to touch on it a little bit because honestly, it's used most in algebra. But I'm going to show you like a really cool way to do multiplying that I don't ever use, but you might like it. So I'm going to show you when we get there. But distributive property is like this: 3 times 2 plus 4. It just means I take whatever numbers in front and I'm going to distribute it, meaning I'm going to multiply it by everything on the inside. So I will do 3 times 2 plus 3 times 4. And I can get my answer that way. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 3 is 12. And my answer would be 18. Do you have to do distributive property on this kind of number? No. I normally would do this problem this way. 3, 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. But for those of you who might have trouble with multiplying, I'm going to show you something. So this is totally optional for what we're doing now. This is not something I usually touch till algebra. All right. Oh, 1 sec, I can write something down. There you go. Okay, let's do some multiplying. All right, we'll start small. So all this, the whole thing is multiply for everything we do right now. We're just going to multiply. Directions, multiply. 1, 29 times 6. And again, this is just a refresher for some of you. Some of you haven't done it a long time and it's like looking at it new, but it should all pop back hopefully. Okay, so you take the 6, multiply by 9, 9 times 6, 54. And that's how fast you need to know your multiplication facts. 6 times 2 is 12. I add the 5, and that's 17. And my product, which is called the answer, this is called the product, which is just what we call the answer, is 174. Two. 725 times 6. Now, this is what I'm going to do it 2 ways to sort of show you how you use distributive property. But let's do it traditional way. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3, 13, 14, 15. 7 times 6 is 42. Now, notice what I just said. I didn't say 6 times 7. I said 7 times 6 because that's that commutative property. I don't like looking at 6 times 7. I like looking at 7 times 6. It doesn't matter which way you multiply them. 7 times 6 is 42, plus 1 is 43. So our answer would be 4,350. Okay, so that's traditional way we multiply, but I'm going to show you something different. And this is just very optional. This is just if you like it. So you can take this 725 times 6 and do it a very different way. You could do the following. I can do 6 times 5 is equal to 30. I can do 6 times 20. Why 20? Because it's in the 10 spot, equals 120. And then I'm going to do 6 times 700. Why 700? Because it's in the 100 spot. It's 4,200. And when you add them up, guess what you're going to get? 4,350. That's a distributive property, breaking it up in pieces. I'll do another one later on just like that. But you see how we did? We took 6 times the 1's digit, 6 times 5, which is a 1's digit, 6 times the 10 digit, 6 times 20 is 120, and then 6 times the 7, which is a 100's digit, 6 times the 7, and I got my answer. And why is this easier for some? For some like it because it has all these zeros and it makes it a lot easier to do the multiplying. You don't have to worry about carrying numbers over. You just multiply each one. Now, this can be very tedious if you're doing like a 3-digit times a 3-digit, but I wanted to share it with you in case you like it. All right, so our next one, 648 times 8. All right, 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 6, 38. 8 times 6 is 48, 49, 50, 51, 5,184. Okay, that was a 3-digit and 2-digit times a 1-digit. We're going to go to multiplying by 2 digits. We're going to slowly increase it. All right, so now let's try a 3-digit times a 2-digit. So we're going to do 306 times 81. There's one thing we have to do when we have more than 1 digit that we're multiplying by. So let's see what we do. So what we do is you multiply the 1 by everything, and then we multiply the 8 by everything, but we have to do one thing. So 6 times 1 is 6. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 3 is 3. Now, because the 8 is in the 10th spot, we have to add a 0 to make it in the 10th spot. This makes up for the fact it's in the 10th spot by adding that 0. Now we can multiply the 8. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 0 is 0, but we add the 4. 8 times 3 is 24. And now we can add down. 6, 8, 4 and 3 is 7. 4, 2, 24,786. But that's the important part, that 0. As we add on, so if let's say I have, I'm not going to change this, so I'm going to erase this in a second. Let's say I have a number here, some number here that I have to multiply. Then I have to add 0, 0, which we're going to get there in a minute. All right, I'm going to pause for a minute. I see people writing still. Anybody have any questions for me? Everybody looks good so far. Everybody good? Yeah, awesome. Thank you. All right, 5. I'm actually going to do 5 on the next page because I want to do it. I want to show you both ways. So hold on. I'm going to switch to, I'm going to add a page. Everybody good? Okay, good. Oh yes, and if you haven't been here either, if you're new, I also have, I saved these now. I saved these as a PDF and I also upload it in your modules. So if you want to go back to the notes at all at any time, all these notes will be up on in your modules in Canvas. All right, so this one. So what number, what do I always forget what number we're on? Always do. Thank you. I always do that. I've always have to done. That's something new. Okay, 5. 5, thank you. Okay, now 43 times 24. I'm going to do this one 2 ways to show you how to do it a different way if you'd like it. So 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 4 is 16. Add 1, 17. I go to my 2, but it's in a 10 spot, so I got to add a 0. 2 times 3 is 6. And 4 times 2 is 8. Now, something you can do, because this 1 is hanging here, right? I don't want you to get confused. So sometimes what you can do is just sort of like cross it out after you use it. It didn't belong with a 4 times 2, it belonged with the other multiplying by 4. So if that confuses you and you're going to add 1, like cross them out after you use them. I'll show you on the next one. 2, 7 plus 6 is 13, 8, 9, and 10. 1,032. Okay, so I want to do it again with the distributive property. So what I would do is we'll start with 4. We're going to do 4 times 3, which is 12. And then I'm going to multiply 4 by, see that 4 here? That's going to be in a 10 spot. 4 times 40, which is 160. So that's multiplied. And now this time I'm going to multiply. I have to multiply the 2, but the 2 is in the 10 spot. So it's not 2, it's 20. 20 times 3, which is 60. And then 20 times on the 4, again, is in the 10 spot. 20 times 40, which is 800. And just a little tip, if you guys don't know this, just in case you don't, when you have zeros, all you have to do is multiply the number. 4 times 2 is 8, and add how many zeros you have. I don't know if you know that. So if I had, let's say I had 3,000 times 40, I would multiply 4 times 3, which is 12. I'd count my zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'd have 4 zeros. It'd be 120,000. You guys know that already? If you do, awesome. If not, a little tip. This has nothing to do with the problem, just to show you it. Okay, and then I would add down, and I get the same answer, 1,032. Okay, 6. 267 times 48. So now we're doing a 3-digit times a 2-digit. Now, I do know these are very easy to make mistakes, so don't do these too quickly. Take your time. Okay, so 8 times 7 is 56. 8 times 6 is 48 plus 5. Watch this. Use your fingers. Great. For 9, 51, 52, 53. Remember, yes, anybody who hasn't been here, it is a non-calculator. You do not use a calculator. If you do, you're just cheating yourself, because when you go to the next class, you're not going to do well. You have to be able to do this without a calculator. And developmental math 2 is also non-calculator. So the whole idea is to make you very strong in math without using a calculator. Anybody can plug this into a calculator and get the answer. That means still means you don't know math. You got to know your math. So 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 5 is 21. Now I added 0 because I'm going to multiply the 4, which is in a tens position. Now, see how I used the 5 and the 5 already? I'm going to cross them out. That's what I mean by crossing them out. Now, whatever number I put on top is for my multiplying by the 4. 7 times 4 is 28. Six times 4 is 24, plus 2 is 26. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. And now I'm going to add down. 6 plus 0 is 6. 8 plus 3, 12. 6 plus 1 is 8. 2 plus 0 is 2. And 1 times 1 is 1. And my answer is 12,800.
I
I
got
messed up.
816.
Yeah, I just saw I messed up. I added wrong. See, there you go. You're easy to make mistake, right? All right. Yes, 12,816. Beautiful. And yeah, please tell me if I mess something up. It's very easy because my mind's everywhere when I'm talking about these. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So I have one more, and then I'm going to have you some for you to practice. So this time we haven't done one yet. We're going to do a 3 times a 3, 3-digit times a 3-digit. So number 7. 726 times 142. Same thing, except now we have an extra digit. So 6 times 2 is 12. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 7 times 2 is 14. Okay, we're going to hit the 4, so we add a 0. I'm going to cross this out because I already used it. 6 times 4 is 24. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 1 is 29. Now, because the 1 is in a 100 spot, we add 2 zeros. I'm going to cross out my little numbers on top because I already used them. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. And 1 times 7 is 7. And now I can add down. 2 plus 2 zeros is 2. 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 0 is 9. 6 plus 0 is 6, plus 4 is 10. 2 plus 9 is 11, plus 1 plus 1, 13. 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 1 is 10. And I get an answer of 103,092. Any questions? I'm going to give you about 2 to try. Everybody caught up to me? I'm looking. I still see some people writing a little bit. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're going to start a little. Okay, so this is for you. So I call it you try section. 92 times 14. And then you give it a try, and then I'll show you the answer. Okay, I'm gonna start writing the answer down, so don't look unless you're done. All right, answer is up whenever you're ready. If you wanna look at it, I put the work too. We do good? We do well? Good, awesome, awesome. Okay, for those of you who are done, and if you're not done, keep going on that one. Try this one. 843 times 96. Okay, I'll start writing the answer down, so don't look unless you're ready. Okay, whenever you're ready, I have the second answer up. If you happen to have it wrong, no worries. Just look at the numbers I have written, see where you might have made your error. And that's how you learn. Okay, in case you're done, if you're not, keep working. Last one to try. A 3-digit times a 3-digit. If we were in class right now, I'd be walking around to see if anybody needed help. That's the one bad thing about online. Okay, I had the answer to the last one up. If you don't have that exact answer, just check where you might see a mistake in a number and just go back and just check it. And if these are sort of like rusty to you, you need to practice, just take your time because it can easily make mistakes. These. I see a couple of people still working. It'd be a good time to say, does anybody have any questions on multiplying? We're going to talk about where multiplying is used. Multiplying is used everywhere in real life, but a couple things in particular. You're always going to have real life problems with multiplying. Okay, no questions? Okay, I'm moving on. Okay, so where do we move? Where do we use multiplying? What's a big thing about multiplying? Well, the first thing about multiplying is area. What's the area of a figure? You're building a garden and you can only be 12 by 6. What's the area? How much can you plant in that garden? That kind of thing. So area is equal to length times width. So this is length times width. Couple things to keep in mind. I should do it with an example. We'll do example 1. We'll do number 1. Okay. Find the area of a square with side length of 3 inches. Small square. All right. The thing to keep in mind is what the heck is a square? Like why a square? How come I only have one number? Well, that's because if you remember back in your memory that a square has all equal sides. So actually a square with a side length of 3 means all the way around is 3. So all I needed was one side to know how to find the area. Now I don't need all those 4 sides, but listen, if it's asking for perimeter, this is what you would do. 3 goes all the way around, right? So it would be 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, and that would be your perimeter, but we want area. So area is length times width. I only need one length and one width, so which should be 3 times 3, which is equal to 9. Now here's the important part. The unit, inches. Area is always squared. Area always has a squared, they call it a unit, meaning centimeters, inches, etc. It's always a square. Why? Because you're multiplying 2 things. So it's a square. If you multiply 3 things, it's a cube, a 3. If you multiply 4 things, it's a 4 power. But area is always a square. Let's do one more. 2. Find the area of a rectangle sorry, I want to do it a different way. That has the dimensions of 12 feet by 8 feet. You see that a lot. Like at the garden gave me the idea. So sometimes you see, it's not really, they don't give you the sides and the lengths. They tell you, oh, it's 12 by 8, or it's 12 by 12, or it's 4 times 4, right? 4 by 4. So it just basically means, in case you never really knew that, it just means that one side is 12 and the other side is 8. There's something about rectangle I want to talk about for a second, because I don't think I mentioned it before, but you probably already know it, but I think it's going to come up on your test. If I give you 2 sides of a rectangle, you know all 4 sides, because opposite sides of rectangles are the same length. So this would be 8 feet, and this would also be 12 feet. So you can easily find the perimeter given 2 sides, just to remind you in case you forgot. But we're not looking for perimeter, we're looking for area. So I don't need these 2. So all I would do is I would multiply them. 12 times 8, I'm going to do it the vertical way instead of across. 16, 8 times 1 is 8 plus 1 is 9. So it'd be 96 feet squared.
Ms. Garrett, something
Yes.
that I always think and may help other people in the group
Absolutely.
is to think of it as a room, like the room you're sitting in. For what I do for a living in facility management, we use a lot of this by getting square footage of a room, or like you said, getting the perimeter of maybe, say, a building. That's a little tip that I use. Maybe it helps other people out to think of that way.
That's great. Thank you very much. People, you don't realize, a lot of people don't realize, now you're in school, when am I ever going to use this? When am I ever going to use this? Well, this is like every day. You want to build something, you want to add a room to your house, you want to make a garden, you want to, carpet. You want to know how much carpet you have to buy. Well, you have to find the measurements of your room, and then you got to find the area, and then you go to the store and say, hey, I need this much area of carpet, right? So this is everywhere. And even perimeter. Let's say you have a garden and you want to know how much fence you have to buy for around it. That's your perimeter, right? So this stuff is everywhere. So it's so important to know. And thank you very much. I really appreciate JP. Thank you. Okay, so that being said, let's do a couple real world problems, and then we're going to go to dividing. I have found that people don't use carpets that much here. In New Jersey, where I'm from, everything's carpeted. So I bought my house down here. It's like no carpets. Like, ooh, I sort of like it.
We recently had to buy carpet for our bedroom, and it
Did you?
was so complicated to try to figure out the measurements.
And that's what you do. You sort of like, so let's say you have a room. Hold on, don't draw this. Say you have a room like this. You would have to like cut it this way and find the area of this, and then find the area of that, and then put it together. So when you have odd shaped rooms, you have to sort of like make them into squares and rectangles so you can find the area. And JP shaking his head because he knows. Okay, so real world problem. It is very complicated, I agree. Okay, so. Whoops, I covered it up. Okay, which one do I want? I have a few. Okay, it's this one. A particular computer printer can print, and I'm sure you've seen this when you buy a printer, 16 pages per minute in color. I don't think that's too bad. How many pages can it print in 45 minutes? So you'll be printing for a while. You want to know how many you can print. Maybe you need to buy paper, right? You want to know how much paper you need. So you need to know how many pages it's going to print. What are you going to do? Well, we're going to multiply them, right? So 45 times 16. So if does 16 every 1 minute, to find how many 45 minutes, we're going to multiply by 45. So we multiply. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 3 is 27. I'm doing the 1 now, so I have to add the 0 because it's in the 10 spot. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 4 is 4. And when I add these up, I'll know my answer. 0. 7 plus 5 is 12. Whoops, sorry. 12. 4 plus 2 plus 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whoop. And then you should always finish with, like, I always say a word problem is about words. Finish it with words. 720 pages in 45 minutes. You don't just want to get the answer. It's a word problem. So finish it with word. I mean, I didn't mean to say word problem, a real word problem. I think word problem gives everybody like palpitations. Oh my gosh, the word problem. No, it's just a real word problem. That's all. Something you use every day. Questions on that? No? Awesome. Let's do one more. Okay, my second real world problem. Okay. No, sorry. I missed a word. If the average page, well, we're going to talk about averaging after we do dividing, in a book contains 163 words. Now watch this one. Estimate, there's that estimate, by rounding each, rounding, no, each, sorry, take that out. Ooh. Rounding to the nearest 100 the total number of pages, no words, getting ahead of myself, number of words contained on 391 pages. Okay, I'll read it while you're finishing up. If the average page in a book contains 163 words, estimate by rounding to the nearest 100 the total number of words contained on 391 pages. Okay, estimate makes this way much easier. So if I'm rounding to the nearest 100, so I have 163, and I'm rounding to the nearest 100, I look behind it, it's a 6, so I know I'm going to round up. That'd be 200. And then my next number is 391. I'm rounding to the 100, so I look behind it, and that's a 9. That means I'm rounding up to 400. Now, here's, sorry, my dog sometimes barks to be here. Here's my tip. Listen, all we have to do is multiply 4 times 2 is 8. I'm not even going to do multiplying that way. Watch, 8. How many zeros we have? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 80,000 words. So there'll be 80,000 words on 391 pages. I should put the word about, we rounded, right? We did estimating. So about 80,000 words on 391 pages. And there is your multiplying section. Any questions, anything? Anything? You want a 1 minute break to go to the bathroom?
Instead of using the word about, would it be acceptable to use like the little estimating sign?
Yep. You mean, well,
I don't know
sorry,
what it's called.
this thing?
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine. That's fine. Perfect. I love it. It's a great question. Okay, so I'm gonna just pause for like a minute, 15 seconds, not long. Run to the bathroom, get a drink, whatever you want. I'm gonna grab a drink, my throat's dry. And then we're gonna do dividing.
Hey, Miss Garrett.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, since we like taking about a minute and a half break, can you go back to like the first 2 pages that you did? I was gonna write them down real quick.
First 2 pages of which section? I have a lot of pages. I have like 11 pages. Like
Um,
that page, the area?
No, ma'am.